This is High Priest by Jason Mankey, published by Llewellyn in 2025. This is a biography of Raymond Buckland, who passed away fairly recently in 2017 and is often hailed as the father of American witchcraft. What does that mean exactly? Well, Ray was essential in bringing the craft to the United States from Europe, and he established America's first Wiccan coven. On top of that, he wrote a lot of books, many of which are still referenced today. So as far as craft history is concerned, he's an important guy. And that's his face there on the cover. I have a pre-production copy of the book here, by the way. So if you buy it now, you obviously won't have this little white label on the front that says limited distribution. But aside from that, everything I talk about is pretty much going to be identical. I just told you a little bit about Raymond Buckland. Now, let me tell you a little bit about the guy who wrote about Raymond Buckland, Jason Mankey. So it says here that Jason Mankey is a third-degree Gardnerian high priest and helps run 2 witchcraft covens in the San Francisco Bay Area with his wife, Ari. He is a popular speaker at pagan and witchcraft events across North America and Great Britain and has been recognized by his peers as an authority on the horned god, Wiccan history, and occult influences in rock and roll. Jason is a cool guy. I've had the pleasure of interviewing him not just once, but twice now, and he's always a lot of fun to talk to. He has said many times that he's not a biographer. And in fact, he wrote that in the introduction. Let me show you here on page 5. He says, "I am most certainly not a trained historian, and I am most certainly not a trained biographer." Well, trained biographer or not, Jason spent years researching this book. He went to the Buckland Museum of Witchcraft in Ohio to study documents, pictures, and letters. He was given access to Buckland's unpublished memoir. He talked to some of the people who were closest to Buckland, and on top of all of this, he already knew a good deal, probably more than most practitioners, about craft history. So, in my opinion, he had a set of experiences that make him uniquely qualified to write this book from an objective perspective. And that's just what he did. So, Jason, it looks like you're officially a biographer. Now, let me turn to the table of contents and show you a little bit about what you're going to get with this book. So, obviously, as a biography, most of the content is about Raymond Buckland's life. So, chapter 1 talks about his childhood. Chapter 2 talks about meeting Rosemary and moving to America. Chapter 3 talks about getting initiated into the witch cult. But what's really cool is that each chapter comes with some sort of additional interesting thing, which the book refers to as an exercise. The very first of which is where Ivo Dominguez Jr., another one of my favorite authors, explains Buckland's star chart. So before you really even get into the history of his life, you can get a sense of who he is, astrologically speaking. And then as you move on, the exercises become rituals or spells that Buckland himself wrote in his other books. Like, this is how to get started with automatic writing. And if I flip forward a little bit, this next one is an initiation script. And I won't spoil every single one of them, but I think all of these add such an interesting perspective because you hear from Jason, and then you hear from Buckland, and it keeps going back and forth. Speaking of perspectives, as you read through, you will also discover short pieces contributed by other people who knew Raymond Buckland or who were affected by him. Like this one in particular, if I can get to that page number, was written by Thorne Mooney and explains how Buckland wrote the foreword to one of her books and then asked her why he wasn't listed in her recommended resources, which is hilarious. So biographies can sometimes have a way of vilifying or edifying, building someone up as a god, or just tearing them down, you know? And what this book does is neither of those things. It makes Raymond Buckland human. There's quite a bit of content here. Jason told me it was over 100,000 words, so that is quite a bit longer than your standard witchcraft book. Here we go for the drop test. Yeah, lots of information contained here. I think if you are someone who has an interest in the history of the craft, or you just want to find out more about where things come from, this is probably a book you'll want on your reading list. So I'll post a link to where you can get a copy of your own, read it for yourself, then come back here, tell me what you think.